This is Module 4, Lesson 31, titled Problems in Mathematical Terms. Two goals in this lesson. First, I can determine which of two unknown variables is the independent variable and dependent variable, and I can create a table with independent and dependent variable amounts. Make sure that you take good notes throughout. These problems are going to take a while, and it's going to take you a good amount of effort to understand what the information given in the problem means. So make sure that you pause the video if you need to, and watch the video again if you need to. Let's start with example 1. Tell us Marcus reads for 30 minutes each night. He wants to determine the total number of minutes he will read over the course of a month. He wrote the equation T equals 30D to represent the total amount of time that he has spent reading, where T represents the total number of minutes read and D represents the total number of days that he read during the month. Determine which variable is independent and which is dependent. Then create a table to show how many minutes he has read the first 7 days. Now I'm going to start by focusing on the information that were presented. We know that Marcus reads for 30 minutes each night. He represents this situation with T equals 30D, where T is that represents the total number of minutes that he reads, and D represents the days that he reads during the month. And we're going to create a table later on for the first 7 days. Now what we have to do with that information, look for the action words here, we're going to determine which variable is independent and which one's dependent, and then we're going to create a table to show how many minutes he's read in the first 7 days. To start with determining which variable is independent and which is dependent, first of all, notice there's two amounts in this problem that change. Okay? The time, T, that he reads, and D, the days that he reads. Those two things are the variables. They're changing. One of those is the independent variable, and one is the dependent variable. To help you remember this, please write this little note down. The dependent variable, notice I underlined the word depend in the word dependent variable. The dependent variable changes depending on the independent variable. One of these variables changes the other. The one that gets changed because of the other is the dependent variable. It depends on what the independent variable is. So when looking at our variables, time read and days read, which one is going to depend on the other? Is the time that he reads going to depend on how many days that he reads? Or is it the other way around? Is it the number of days that he reads going to depend on how many minutes that he reads? The time that he reads is going to depend on how many days that he reads. So time is going to be the dependent variable. Minutes read. The number of minutes he reads depends on how many days that he reads. Notice the time changes because the days change. The days are not going to change because of time. That's sort of like thinking that because he doesn't read, the calendar isn't going to continue. Okay, that doesn't make sense. All right. Now another clue that we have is this first variable in the equation. If you're given an equation, that first variable is always going to be the dependent variable. Something's going to be done to the independent variable. Okay. In this case, we're multiplying the independent variable by 30. So we've got our dependent and our independent variable name. Now we're going to make a table to show how many minutes he's read. Now we always start by putting the independent variable on the left and the dependent variable on the right. They also have to give us the independent variable. They do. They give us the first 7 days. So we can fill in this half of the table with 1 through 7. Now to figure out the other side, we can substitute those d's into the equation. So we can substitute a 1 in for d and think of it as 30 times 1, which would be 30 minutes. He read 30 minutes in one day. If we substitute a 2 in for d, that means 30 times 2, which is 60 minutes. That means he reads 60 minutes in 2 days. 30 times 3 is going to be 90 minutes. 30 times 4 is 120 minutes. 30 times 5 is 150 minutes. 30 times 6 is 180 minutes. And 30 times 7 is 210 minutes. So this tells us, according to how much he read every day, that you can see how many minutes he reads for the first 7 days of the week, if he reads 30 minutes a day.